Like I used to tell my dad was an alcoholic. Like I don't drink or smoke, but I learned from his mistakes. And I remember vividly taking him to Alcohol Anonymous. I drove him there and I sat in a class with him. And after the first day, he just never wanted to go back. I think that a lot of times when you're in this box of the industry, especially with what I do, you can't even differentiate. I can't differentiate Charlie from who AJ is, because my whole life was just like Charlie. Yeah. So like having to like understand why certain things happen and how to separate the two, it becomes really hard. Like if I bring my nephew to go play basketball outdoors somewhere. Someone will walk by, yo, isn't that DJ, like, whatever? And I'll just act like I'm not even that person. Walk into the gym, they're like, yo, you're Nah, I'm not. Everyone says I look like him, but I'm not him. Because I'll be dressed like gym clothes. Like,
So your name's AJ?
Yeah.
So where's Charlie come from?
Well, so when I was in high school, my name was Brown. They used to call, because I'm a brown guy, call me Brown. So when I started kind of getting to the DJing, like towards the end of high school, Brown just seemed very bland.
Charlie Brown.
DJ Brown. Just didn't mean nothing, right?
Yeah.
So then some guy that I knew was just like, yo, Charlie Brown. I'm like, oh, I like that name. And it was kind of a thing where it appealed to every audience. Everybody watched that, like for our generation. And then Twitter came out, couldn't get Charlie Brown, so shortened it to Charlie B.
Gotcha.
And then,
Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought your name was Charlie naturally, right? So.
Everybody does.
Yeah. You said AJ, I was like,
yeah.
DJ Charlie B.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Gents Talk Pod.
Welcome.
I'm happy to be here, man.
No, we appreciate you coming through.
Of course.
I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Likewise.
You do a lot of incredible stuff, but it's not just the as a DJ, it's not just the music side of things. You do a lot of stuff in the mental health space that we want to talk about.
Right.
But firstly, who's AJ?
So AJ's a kid that grew up in North York, that fell in love with music at a very young age. I had an older brother that was trying to become a DJ at the time, and he's 4 years older than me, and he had a set of turntables in the room, so when he wasn't home, I'd mess around with his stuff when I probably shouldn't have been.
Without his permission,
Yeah, because, we had turntables, so there's like needles, so he'd think you're younger, you don't know how to be responsible. You're going to break my needles, and he doesn't have money to buy back the needles. And, I was selling burned CDs in high school for $5, a CD, and that's when we had like 2X and 4X burners. So it would take me like 25 minutes to burn a CD. So I'd be up all night, literally burning these CDs, because people at school would give me a list and say, yo, AJ, like, these are the songs we want on this. And then if I couldn't get certain songs from Napster or LimeWire, I would like just put exclusive songs that I liked and hope that they would like them, But some of them would complain saying, oh, you didn't get that specific song that I wanted.
Can't keep everybody happy.
Right? I mean, that's what it is. But I think, I got into obviously DJing on his stuff when he wasn't home. And then I started buying records myself. So my first job was at McDonald's, 16 years old, and I'd literally just wait to get paid, and then I would take that money and go to play the record or tracks downtown, and like every other Thursday when I'd get paid, and just spend all the whole check on records. Because one record was obviously $13 and there's only one song on it. Radio, instrumental, dirty a cappella on the other side, and that's it. Yeah. And obviously the well-known DJs at the time would always get first dibs, so I'm walking in there and I'm seeing like starting from scratch and all these guys that I look up to, and I'm like, yo, can I get that? Because they'd buy 2 records because they'd be on the radio and they go back and forth, and I could only afford one of them. And then I'd be like, yo, can I just buy that one instead? But they'd need them. So it's like that showed me at a young age that I needed to build my brand to the point of showing up to these places and they know who I am. So I think that was the first sign for me to be like, okay, it's time to take this seriously, so that you don't get like pushed to the side. And and then I started kind of getting to know the guy that ran the record store, and we had a great relationship, and that's when I started getting exclusive records and started DJing in apartment buildings to like basement parties. And I mean, like I really started from the bottom, like for real. Like I really, been through a lot of different situations that a lot of people haven't, really been through. As a DJ, it's like you grow and climb this ladder, and a lot of people that come after you, they don't see the work you've put in. because they weren't around for it.
Yeah.
Which is, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, like I remember I couldn't even afford like buying a milk crate. We'd literally like get a recycling bin and put records in them. I remember DJing at a party and shots letting off in the party, and I'm grabbing my recycling bin with records, running out of the back door.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And that's just like, there's so many things that I've went through, and as obviously a grown man now, I'm realizing there was so much trauma from all that stuff that I never really kind of thought about. I just thought it was normal because we kind of lived in it. You born and raised in the streets, and you go to these parties, you just kind of know what your surroundings are, and it is what it is. And I think that it came to a point where you get immune to certain things. Like I could feel it in the air. I'll go to a party and I'll be like, yo, this does not look right.
Yeah.
And then you just
right away, you're just like, ooh,
yeah,
it's gonna be one of those nights.
You walk in and it's just in the air, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, you know what? You kind of know when to leave, and you know kind of how to move. And I think, it really, like the street smart really taught me a lot. And I think that, moving forward to obviously with these records and what we're talking about, I think, I wanted more. And I started realizing that now it was going from records to CD players. So they started kind of moving forward with like that era of like records are going to be kind of canceled out. Started DJing on CDs for a while, and I didn't want to. I got forced to DJing on CDs because somebody stole all my records out of my trunk on my birthday. So I literally went out one night and I came home 3 o'clock in the morning. You're exhausted. You're DJing for like 5 hours. You have like 5 different crates to bring in the house. Wasn't happening. But I'm not thinking that anybody knows that there's records in my trunk. But, you associate yourself and communicate with people. You don't know who knows what.
Said what to who.
Who told something to whatever, who's really on your side or not.
100%. So definitely just woke up the next morning to go get my records to practice because I had a party that day for my birthday. Opened the door and my trunk was wide open. And I was just like, all right, like Biggie's first album's in there, like Mobb D, Pac, like a whole bunch of stuff that aren't even represses of the records. They're actually like the original. And, it's hard earned money. Like during this time, obviously, like I'm building my brand.
Yeah.
And this is the digital marketing, having the right records and being able to play at the right spots. But if you don't have the right records, you obviously can't play them.
Yeah.
And, it was a very tough time for me. And that day, like it felt like a death in the family, I lost all my records. I felt like I lost my life. And I think that same day, my brother was living in Windsor at the time. I drove to Windsor and he gave me records because he had like doubles of certain records. And that kind of, eased the pain a bit.
Yeah.
But luckily, there was a transformation from records to CDs. So that was kind of a blessing in disguise for me because we didn't really need the records. But I would have loved them for like the collection aspect.
Yeah, of course.
And I started DJing off CDs. And then obviously like the laptop stuff came into play like further down the road. But I learned a lot in that process of really, not sweating certain things, because at the end of the day, like we all go through things, we all have a story, we all have issues, but it's just overcoming and just becoming stronger because of it. And I think during my time of really starting out, I didn't want to rely on promoters to hire me. And I had a great network, so I told myself, why don't I just throw my own parties? And if promoters hire me, cool. But if something happens with me and these promoters, or they don't want to pay me what I want, I throw my own parties, and it is what it is.
Yeah, you're not reliant on someone else anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, I threw my first party when I was 18. I've been in the game 20 now, and I'm still obviously throwing events, touring, doing what I got to do. But things are different now, right? I think you get to a certain point where you have to form a team, because obviously, as you guys know, you can't do anything yourself. And you got to understand everything's about timing and knowing that, okay, like this generation is now moved on. They're having kids, people are into their career now. They're not really partying like that. So now you have to find somebody that is in the next generation coming up.
Yeah.
And you got to mold them and bring them up and kind of mentor them and mold them for you to kind of sustain. So, it's an interesting, market, but I realized at an early age that marketing was very, very important.
I think people forget that as a DJ, you're also an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like you're running a business.
You're running a business. I'm filing taxes every year. It's not a joke. Like it's real. And I think that it's important to differentiate like your club life from like your real life. And it's easy to get lost in it because I feel like nightlife it could be the worst situation for you because you have access to everything, whether it's women, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol. There's so many different, things that can cause issues for yourself. And if you don't have a strong mind, it's very hard to like,
resist all those things.
Right. Because it's like, how do I, see everyone else doing it and I'm not doing
Not
it?
participate. You're walking into that environment intentionally to produce your craft. And then you got to basically cut out half the environment.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you think about, how important it is. Well, I thought about how important it was to have mentors and people that like coaches, mental coaches, and people that can help me kind of grow as a person. And it's so hard because not everybody, but a lot of people that you're around are not really on anything like that. Everyone's just living for the next day.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, what's the next step for me? Because I'm going to get bored doing this all the time. And I think my biggest dopamine was, throwing a sold out party. You throw at a sold out party, there's 1,000 people there. You're like, yo, I did it. And you're taking the happiness from this party and you're spreading it across the rest of your life. So AJ's not really happy, but Charlie's ecstatic. So you know what? Charlie is AJ. So
Yeah. Well, how do you bridge the gap between the two?
Well,
Because your outward persona is DJ Charlie B.
Yeah.
And then your inward persona is AJ,
Yeah.
right? Like that's your private face.
Right.
How do you merge the two faces, or do you keep them separate?
You know what? It's tough. I've always managed to separate the two. Like I don't really post a lot of personal stuff on like socials like that. I'm really just like about the business and about my commitment to the community and the things that I do on the philanthropy aspect. But yeah, like I'm really low key. I'm pretty much, if I were to define myself, I'm a introvert that was forced to be an extrovert. Like I'm really not like the guy that's super loud and does all this stuff. I just feel like when I got into the industry, I was in it for the music and the love of music. But once I found out what came with it in terms of the business part of it, I was already in too deep.
Yeah.
And then you have a team that you work with and you're like, well, I can't let these people down either. So you end up living for that. I'm like, okay, I got to make sure my guys eat, make sure they're good. And you put yourself in a position where you put yourself at risk, where it's like, I'm not taking the time to, treat myself with kindness. I'm saying, you know what? Yeah, forget about you right now. Let's make sure they're good. Because my happiness would come from helping other people. At the time, like everybody. Like if there's anyone obviously watching this that knows me, knows who I am as a person,
Right.
and they know that I've always put everyone else before myself. And I think that because people see what I do in terms of like on Instagram or whatever social, and even when they see me, it's all love. People always say check on your strong friend, and I think that people don't really check in with me like that because they think I'm good.
Who takes care of the caregiver?
Right? And that's the thing. It's like, and when you're a person that doesn't ask for help, they think you're good.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like, Charlie, you're good, man. You're all right. But they don't realize what's happening to you in terms of like internally. And I was like, I had to take the time to really figure myself out. Who is AJ himself? What does he like? What is his interests? Every time like I'd look at old Facebook conversations with people, like sometimes I get into that vibe. Looking back at that now, it's like, what were you really doing? You were just working. You weren't really, setting the time aside for yourself and what you really like. Like I'm an avid wrestling fan. I love wrestling since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I always made time for that. But if I had a gig and Monday Night Raw's in town, I'm going to the gig.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to get this money.
Yeah.
And it was so hard for me to like pull back and say, you know what? I don't want money today. I'm going to focus on enjoying myself. Because you don't know how long the money's going to come in with the industry that you're in.
Yeah. That's
Or
like
the
there's
opportunity.
this constant risk of if you don't go out and work, you don't get the bread.
There you go.
Right.
And you can potentially lose a look. Or if an owner's hiring you to DJ a club and you say you can't do it, he might go with someone else and he might not hire you again.
Yeah.
Well, there goes your relationship and there goes your money. So it's a very, it's a very tough industry, and it's very important to have a balance. And I think that that's something I never had. I'm always moving on 100, always people pleasing, always just trying to make sure that everyone's okay. And then, you start to lose yourself in the process because you're just doing the same thing all the time. And I think that I had to learn how to like do something different, and be okay with it. Sometimes, we're uncomfortable to do new things. We just want to go with what we're already doing. So we'd rather just go the comfortable way. But sometimes you got to get uncomfortable to be comfortable again for like a new normal,
You gotta stay uncomfortable.
Who's your favorite wrestler?
That's a good question. Honestly, like there's a bunch, but
Give us like your top 3.
speaking of wrestling though, like you gotta really break it down to like, molecules and atoms. Like what are we talking about? Personality, technical wrestler, like
Who gives you the most joy from a fan perspective?
from a fan perspective, I'd have to say The Rock to me.
The Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stone Cold was crazy.
Stone Cold was
That era
incredible.
was
that entire era.
Ooh,
Yeah.
like
I was a big WCW guy though. I
Yeah,
love my
yeah,
WCW.
yeah.
Like, I
I
like
was
Sting,
never,
yeah, yeah.
Sting, NWO Black and Wolfpack.
Yeah,
Like, all
NWO
day.
was crazy though.
Yeah, when Hogan moved over and did the flip, that broke my heart.
That was on my birthday.
Yeah.
Everything's
Bash
on
at
your
the Beach,
birthday.
July 7th.
The same birthday.
Maybe. July 7th, I was watching Bash at the Beach.
Yeah.
And I seen Hogan come out and I'm like, yo, Hogan's coming to save these guys,
Yeah.
Savage and Sting. Next thing you know,
He turns.
oh my, that leg drop.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you see all the garbage in the ring?
Yeah, people were
Yeah, yeah.
so mad.
They bought into it.
Yeah.
It was so real, But yeah, that was great. Like I think one of the highlights of AJ's life would have been having lunch with Bret Hart in Calgary.
Really?
nice.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So I'm really cool with his son, and I told him I had a gig in Calgary,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Yo, you want to go to lunch with my dad?" I'm like, "Of course I do."
I'd love to meet Brett.
It was crazy.
How's he? What's he like?
You know what? Brett's had a tough life.
Yeah.
A very, very tough life, and I think he's the ultimate OG. Like a very, very, respectful person, and he gave me a lot of gems. He gave me his book signed. I didn't even ask him to like.
Wow.
And one thing he gave me that was absolutely legendary was his glasses.
Oh
You're
yeah.
kidding.
And he actually put them on me.
Oh.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And like as a kid, like
Yeah,
he'd
yeah.
come out
I'm really
with,
jealous right
and
now.
he'd-
You'd always put it on, and like,
Yeah.
that was
And
the thing.
right? And I'd be like, I wish that was me.
Yeah.
He put it on me as an adult, and I
Nice.
felt like I was a kid again. So it was a great it was a great time. He's a great person. But
Doesn't that just motivate you to want to use your own platform to hopefully give someone else that feeling?
yes, and that's the thing, right? It's like that's what I've been doing. When the pandemic hit,
Yeah.
I was telling myself, all right, Charlie, like, this is the Charlie side. What are you going to do now?
Yeah.
All the clubs are closed. We can't go anywhere. We can't go anywhere. You can't really see anybody in person. And, like, family members are disagreeing on different things, like, whether to take the shot or not take the shot. There's just so many different things.
So many things got people divided.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was like, how do you put yourself, because I want to stay busy. So how do I put things into perspective to continue to keep working? So this is where the AJ part came in. Because I was like, okay, well, Charlie's saying you got to stay busy. AJ's saying do something meaningful. So how do I get Charlie and AJ to meet in the middle? And that's when I said, okay, what's something you've always wanted to do? And I've always wanted to give back, like on a bigger scale. I've always give back amongst my team and people that I know. But how can I give back and make it more broad? And that's when I thought of an initiative that was called Saturday Love. And that was an initiative that I did to give back to DJs. Like, why not give back to DJs? Because I am one of them. And I felt like, I'm a leader in that space. And I saw DJ Envy do something at the time where he raised over $100,000 for, for a bunch of DJs across America. And I thought of an idea similar to that. So I called him because we have a great relationship. I said, Envy, what do you think? Like, I want to do this in Canada, but I want your blessing because I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to rip what you were doing. And, I had a similar idea. And he's like, Charlie, do it. And I set it up. I put together, like, I called a bunch of DJs that I respected that were, still in a better place financially. And I did a 12-hour DJ-a-thon on Twitch. Nice. And we raised money, and it was so much fun. So many people logged in and tuned in. There's a lot of sponsors that donated money. And we ended up raising, our goal was $20,000, but we ended up raising 25, nice. Which was great. We got man. Thank you so much. Incredible. It's such a great feeling to be able to give back. And, you know, we ended up helping 50 DJs, you know, get through a tough month.
Yeah.
So
Tough
it was
year, tough 2 years, tough.
Yeah.
Like, just the ability to just continue for another day, another week.
right. Like I think everything went to like, you know, back to the basics, where it's like nothing matters anymore. Your nice car doesn't matter. You know, the money you got don't matter. Because guess what? We can't go nowhere right now.
Yeah.
So all we have is us. So how can we work collectively together to get through this?
Yeah.
Because your money couldn't save how you felt. Because a lot
Nothing
of people
could in that moment.
will mask it or whatever it is, however they do their thing. But I think at this time, it didn't matter if you were rich, if you're middle class, or didn't have a lot of money. We're all on the same level
Yeah,
now.
level playing field.
There you go. So I think that for me, it was just, you know, how can I continue to do these initiatives and continue to stay busy, but do things that I love to do? And then, you know, we did another initiative, you know, for Black Lives Matter. I wanted to get all DJs to unite against racism. You know, that was a big thing. I grew up, you know, majority of my friends were obviously like different ethnic backgrounds. Grew up around a lot of black people for sure. And, you know, my mom used to babysit a lot of, you know, kids at the time. They were all different ethnic backgrounds. And I knew how important it was. And during that time, like how important Black lives are to me. And I wanted to create something to raise some money, to help, you know, to help like a black group that was doing some business. And at the time I was very premature in terms of the idea because I was trying to think of what to do. And yeah, we ended up doing this DJ takeover on Flow at the time. And I called everybody that I knew. So I got DJ Envy to do a mix, DJ Clue did a mix, Just Incredible from LA, and then a bunch of people from Canada as well. And we ended up raising $56,000. And we donated it to the Black Health Alliance. It helped them with a new program called Thrive. Helps a lot of, you know, helped a lot of black kids in low poverty and that have chronic illnesses as well. It was just a very, you know, very sensitive situation. And, you know, knowing what I do and you know, I specialize in obviously playing hip hop and R&B first, and that's obviously black culture. And to me, like, that's done a lot for me in my life. And I really want to play a part in doing what I could. So I was really happy that we raised that amount of money. It was great, man. It was a good time, you know, seeing everybody kind of support what we had going on. Like, there's nothing like people supporting a great cause.
Yeah.
You know?
When there's a large group of it, yeah, absolutely.
Especially connected through music, right? Music's universal, right?
Yes.
If the music, if it hits you, it just hits you. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing of, like, you know, the thing with music when it, like, it's just, that's the thing I love with music, because, like, it doesn't matter. Like, something you hear a beat and it doesn't matter. You're just like, oh, like, you know, and that's the thing that, that's why I love DJs too.
Yeah.
I was always wondering, like, is the DJ community like a family, or is it like a dog eat dog world? Because, you know,
That's a great question. That's a very, very great question. I mean, let me think about how I'm going to answer this. But, you know, I think like anything in life, in terms of like anything that's competitive, it's going to be competitive.
Sure.
If you're a sprinter, you're going to compete. But I think that like, it's like anything, right? Like, unfortunately, when rappers are alive, they don't get the flowers that they're supposed to get until they're not here anymore. Like, and that's just like a hip hop thing where it's like, I've seen it happen. Like, I think Pac was obviously bigger after he passed.
yeah.
But how much flowers did he get when he was here? He was obviously huge. But, you know, I think that a lot of it, even with DJing, where it's like, I don't think I'm going to get the love or respect I'm supposed to get from that community until I stop doing it.
That's sad.
It's how it always is. Even in like sports, it's like you don't really get recognized until you're done. Like, from everyone wants to hate on LeBron, but 5 years after LeBron retires, everyone's gonna be like, oh my, like, you're gonna even like with Kobe too, because people forget, like, everyone used to hate Kobe
Yep.
forever.
Until he passed, yeah.
Then he retired, like, he passed, retired. Then was like, obviously he was great.
Yeah.
But it's like you just realize how many people just after, and it's like, why is it always after that you have to, like, show love?
Yeah, I think it's because I just feel like it's because they're not in competition with you anymore because you're not doing it.
Okay.
So it's like, well,
I can show this guy love. It's not going to actually help him get above me or ahead of me.
right. And I think that, you know, that's the wrong way to think.
Yeah.
You know how many OGs I have, or even DJs that came before me that I looked up to, that I still call to this day, and I'll be like, yo, thank you so much for like helping me when I was coming up. You don't get that a lot. I don't get that a lot. DJs don't be calling me saying, yo, Charlie, like, thanks for putting me on for the last, you know, 5 or 6 years or whatever it is. And they don't need to. I mean, they're not obligated to do that. But I think
It's a courtesy thing.
right, and I think the little things are the biggest ones.
Yeah.
Like if someone called me and said, "Yo, honestly, I just called to say thank you for everything," I'm gonna put you on the next 5 parties I have going on
Yeah.
because I know that you think the way I think. Because no matter what happens, I'm always gonna thank the people that came before me, that gave me an opportunity. It's important. Like we only have one life to live, and it goes really fast.
Really
You know?
fast, way too fast. Which leads me to my next question here. You do all this philanthropic work for all these different communities, and I commend you on that because it's incredible stuff. And there's more that you're doing with Mary Brown that I want to ask you about. But before we get there, we talked a little bit earlier about, you know, who takes care of the caregiver.
Yeah.
So what do you do to take care of yourself when you're not constantly trying to find ways to take care of others?
Honestly, like it was an uphill battle for me. You know, I remember talking to one of my homegirls about just mental health in general. I've known her for like, I don't know, 15, 16 years. And she would always send me all this stuff like on Instagram, like all this like mental health stuff. And, you know, you should download this app and, you know, do these breathing exercises and, you know, you should journal. All these different things that were at the time to me, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm good. Like, she'd always call and be like, yo, are you doing this stuff? And I'd just be like, yeah, I'm good. Like, stop telling me about this stuff. Because I grew up in an Indian household where my parents met when they got married. The day they got married, they met each other. So they had to make it work.
Yeah.
I grew up in a very broken environment. And I think that my parents, you know, they would think, you know, seeing a therapist or journaling or doing anything like that was like for crazy people. And, you know, they never kind of had the resources or, you know, they were born and raised in India. They came here.
Different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that
It's
like.
just not a thing for them.
Right. But then what happens, right? You're growing up and you think that that ain't a thing either. Yeah. And I think that like, you know.
It's not easy.
It's not. And when I look back, so my dad passed in 2013, and I think that during that time, I should have saw a therapist. I really do. But because my parents didn't believe in that stuff, I thought, hey, like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'll be all right. You know, I think mental health is really out there even more now than it was obviously back then.
Absolutely.
You were just, when I was growing up, you were just taught to just be strong. Like, you just.
Man up.
Whatever, yeah.
Forget about it.
Right. And I think that not seeing a therapist when he passed created a lot more trauma for me as the years kind of went by. And, you know, it's hard because you're really trying to find a happy medium with with my, you know, DJ side or promoter side and then myself. And I think that I had to really just take some time away to figure out who I was. You know, I got booked to DJ in Bali and in Singapore a few months ago, and I went 7 days before I had to DJ. So I went a week before so I could really just go there and just like figure myself out. Like literally walk the beach at sunrise, 6 o'clock in the morning. There's nobody on the beach, just me. And I'm just walking up and down the beach and just like breathing that air. And like, you know, I started getting into, you know, meditating, and I started getting into like, you know, journaling, getting rid of the stuff that's in my brain, like getting all the thoughts out. And it's helped me drastically. Like, I feel like when I look back at some of these, you know, clips of me DJing a year ago, at some points, I don't even know who that person is.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm understanding on a deeper level who I am. And you got to kind of do the work. Like, time will heal your pain, but you have to take the steps to get there. It's important. And that's something that I keep with me. And, you know, people will say you shouldn't talk about the things that you do to help yourself, but I feel like I want to, because there's a lot of people that feel the same way that I do, but they don't have the courage to speak about it. For me, it's like, I think that this is me now, and I think that it's important for people to understand how important it is to take care of yourself.
You have to.
So what advice would you give to younger DJs coming up?
Honestly, just stay true to yourself. It's really important, because I think you can really lose yourself in the process. And just give it a sec. Sorry.
Yeah, no, take your time.
I think it's important to, you know, like, just give me a sec.
You're good, man. You're good. Take your time. I think ultimately it's one of those things where we have to go easy on ourselves.
Yeah.
I think we make things a lot more challenging for ourselves because we don't give ourselves a moment to just breathe, to accept that life has thrown us a curveball and we weren't prepared for it, and we can, as guys, think of all the different ways we could have done better, but really and truly sometimes there's nothing you could have done in that situation.
You know, it's hard because, you know, a lot of the times you see potential in people before they see it in themselves.
Yes.
So imagine being that person that sees that potential, but then having them turn on you. Because
it's not a nice feeling.
They might feel like, oh, like you helped them to a certain level. Now it's time for them to like branch off. But I feel like there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
So
where they thank you at least.
Right.
In some capacity,
Thank you.
yeah.
Or it's like there's a way to do things.
Yeah.
You know, I think that not everybody knows how that works because they might not have the right guidance or the right people in their corner. So I think for me, the first thing back then would be for me to be like, all right, you know what? You're just cutting the person off. But growing in this space, you realize how important it is to be positive, no matter what the outcome is. If that's what you want to do, cool, no problem, no hard feelings, even though you know what they're doing is wrong. But my advice to the DJs coming up would be to keep your circle small, keep the energy around you right, because you could be around the wrong energy and think it's the right energy, and it could,
especially in that world,
right?
Sends you
Especially in
down
that
a very
world.
different path.
Right, because you don't know who you're meeting, like,
Yeah.
And
right.
what their motive is.
what they're yeah. And I think that it's hard to like depict that sometimes. You're like, well, because people do it so well now. So it's like, okay, like,
Yeah,
are
I'm
you a
only
real
looking
one?
out for you, bro. Don't worry.
Yeah, I got you. I
Yeah.
got
Right,
you, man.
yeah.
The next thing you know, no, you only got yourself. Like,
Yeah.
Right. You got to just understand that this is a business, and you know it's important to make time for yourself, and differentiate the Charlie and the AJ. Because if you don't, not everybody, because you know some people are able to just go on and do what they got to do, but then they end up feeling they feel it later on in life. For me, I'm like, okay, thank God I've been able to get to this point before 40, because when I hit 40, it's the second half of my life that's going to begin. So what's all the work that you put in from I was a little kid to 40 years old? Like how am I going to take this next chapter? Because we're only getting older now, and it's only going to get harder.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I was sitting here 10 years ago, you wouldn't see a tear come out of my eye, because you go through all those trials and tribulations, and it obviously makes you who you are. Like I wouldn't regret whatever's happened to me for my life, but I take my time to have, it's a lesson, and you grow from it. And I think my advice to these DJs, and I talk to them all the time, a lot of these guys, and take my advice for what it is. I've been here. I've been doing it for a long time at a high level, and I've seen a lot in this industry, and I've seen the good and I've seen the bad. So I think that it's hard because I feel like DJs aren't really being recognized as much as they used to before. They're just not getting the credit anymore. There's very few that do, which is amazing. But this is why we created the Tasty Mix initiative with Mary Brown's as well, because
tell us about that.
That was something that I was trying to do another DJ initiative for the next generation. It's tough because some of these DJs are planted in these clubs until they want to leave. So it doesn't leave room for opportunity for these other guys. And when these other, say for example, a DJ has been DJing at a club for the last 5 years and he wants to take a night off, he's going to get another DJ to come in, but the DJ's not going to get the money he's supposed to get. And be like, you're playing for the opportunity, which I understand, but at a certain point, it's not really an opportunity anymore. Like look at the stuff you got to do. You got to leave your house and know that you're going to be home at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you got to study music. You got to make sure you entertain the crowd. You got to put on this mask for people, even if you're not even feeling good that day. You got to be happy. And I think that like DJs need to be treated better, right? Because even I've seen it. I've been through it where club owners will just treat DJs not good, bro. Not good. Like, One of my guys went to DJ a club the other day, and he said the club owner was yelling at him because he said, "Why'd you turn the music off?" But there's a way to speak, though.
Yeah.
Like, look, listen, there's definitely a miscommunication here where one of your security guards told me to turn the music off at 3:00. You're coming here screaming at me saying, "Turn it back up," like I'm your little lackey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it's like, you know, and that's why for me, at a certain point, if owners paid me, they're employing me. So they're not going to talk to me like I'm on the same level as them as a human being. So the only way for our relationship to get really strong is for me not to work for you. So if I have a genuine connection with you and we're cool, guess what? I'm not DJing at your club because it's just, you're going to treat me differently.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you know, getting back to what we're talking about, I think that it's important to do our part. Like, think about what you guys do and the great things you guys do. When you guys want to add someone else to this, or you guys want to take this to another level, you're going to want to bring someone in to train them on how to do something like this. Because that's going to fulfill you as well, where it's like you're taking all the time and all the effort and the work you put in and all the losses and wins that you took to put it into someone else and say, look, you don't have to make these mistakes. I got you. And that's something that I did for what I had going on. And I think that, you know, there's some people that appreciate it and tell you they appreciate it, and there's some people that don't. And you just got to go with the people that do appreciate it. Yeah. It's important in this industry to continue to ask questions. That's what I did. Like, you know, for example, like Wayne Warner, he's one of my mentors. I've DJ'd his parties for, I don't know, maybe 10 years. And he's like the biggest urban nightlife promoter ever. He's been throwing parties for 25 years. And he's great at what he does, but he's even better at being like my mentor. Like, I told him the other day, I'm like, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't talk to you. You know, it's like, it's important to have these people in your corner that actually want to see you win, like genuinely.
Really, yeah. I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
Right.
Almost want to see you win more than you want. More than like, you know, because when the days when you don't feel like you're gonna win, they're like, yo, you got this. Like you're
good.
Like, you know.
Yeah.
Right, because it's like you feel that energy. It's different when those people are like. I'd always want certain people that have guided me and mentored me to be proud of me, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's a little. It depends how you look at it, but seeking validation is something I always do, where I'd want someone to like rate me, where it's like, okay, when I'd finish DJing at the club, like finish DJing a set, I'd go to the owner, yo, how did I play, man? But it's like, you really want him to be like, yo, you killed it. Because you want that validation from him that you did a good job. But validation starts with yourself.
Internally.
And that's something I never really knew for a long time. I always wanted people to like me. I wanted people to be like, yo, Charlie, man, you're the guy. Like, I lived for that. But it also stems from, like, being a little kid. Like, what did we do when we were young? We wanted to get good grades because we wanted our parents to be like, yo, oh my God, I'm going to go buy you McDonald's. I'm going to get you an Aero chocolate bar on Friday. Like, it's like that was the thing. Yeah. But imagine everything stemming from childhood and then leading to being an adult.
We carry that with us.
Carry it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I teach these guys as well, and these women as well, where it's like the validation is going to come from yourself. Treat yourself with kindness and just know that, like, your validation is in here, and that's what's going to help you project the energy outward. For me, my validation was from someone else. If someone asked me, Charlie, what do you think of this? What's the first thing I'm doing if I'm with one of my friends? Yeah, what do you think of that? Yeah. No, you got to ask yourself. Tell them how you feel. And that was so hard for me because I didn't want to, like, say something and have someone else look at me like, yo, what are you talking about? Yeah. So I'd rather say, all right, you say the answer, because I don't want to be in the middle. You don't want to
be responsible, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that, like, it's important to really take all the lessons that we've learned and share them with people that are actually going through the same thing that don't want to talk about it. Like, even, I don't know if you guys know who Zark is. Do you know who Zark is?
No.
So Zark used to own a bunch of clubs, a bunch of restaurants, and he actually lives in Costa Rica now, and he does a lot of retreats, and he's a mental health coach. And looking at him, like, years ago, and looking at him now, I'm like, man, like, he's come so far, because he was, like, the guy, you know, like, in terms of, like, what I was into. Like, if I wanted to throw a party at a club called Maison, for example, I'd call Zark.
Right.
He owned the club. Yo, can you da 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 da? And it's like, I seen, you know, Zark in the craziest drip, like all designer all the time. Like he's the guy, you know? And I kind of, you know, watched what Zark was doing after like not being involved in the club scene and seeing how much he's built himself up and how happy he is now internally because he's himself.
Yeah.
You know, like his name is Zarak, but they called him Zark, you know, and he was just comfortable with being Zark. And now he's, you know, comfortable with who he is.
Who he really is.
Who he really is.
Yeah.
And I think that like seeing that showed me like it's okay to be yourself.
Are you
fully.
comfortable with who you are?
Yeah, honestly, I'm definitely comfortable with who I am. But it obviously it's a day-to-day process.
Sure.
Where you're just like, okay, like, you know, I've never been a guy that's been this like, I'm a show off and, you know, this is me. Like the bigger that I've got in this industry, and I still got a long way to go, but as much as I've climbed this ladder, I've kind of just helped people more the more I've climbed. I wasn't a guy saying, oh, I'm getting to this level now, so, you know, I'm not dealing with you guys, or I'm too good for this, or no. I've only like wanted to grow to help more people.
Yeah.
Because as much as I've grown, that's all I've done. Try to put people on, help them out. And it's like in this industry, you realize who the real people are and who are the people that aren't real, for example. It's like you have to really, you know, you got to do your homework and you got to know. Like there's certain things that I used to see and I never had the answers for them. I'd say, why is this person moving like this? Or why is this person moving like that? And growing in this space mentally as AJ, I realized why those people are moving like that at the time. You know, why am I hitting you so many times you're not responding to me? Guess what? That person's having me time right now. But I could never understand it.
Yeah.
I would just think, this guy's not serious about like growth.
Yeah.
You don't want to like, you don't want to grow this thing, because I'm thinking there's timing on shit. Like, oh, if we don't like hit this now, we're not going to get it. And I think that a lot of it, for example, like if someone would ask me to do something, I'd do it right away. And that's how I would grow. So that's how I think my whole life was. If I don't do something right now, I'm going to lose it.
It's a lot of pressure that way.
Right?
Yeah.
Lots of pressure. But it was helping me grow. So I thought it was right. Until I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? You got to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, you know, what's for me is always going to be for me at the end of the day. Things are going to work out however they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So whether I answer this text message in 5 seconds or I answer it in 5 hours, whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that having to agree with that was tough.
Yeah.
You know, like what's for me is always going to be for me. So
without feeling like you're being unproductive too.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like you go on a vacation I've never been on a vacation. I've always related vacation to work.
Yes, you traveled for work, which is not the same as vacation.
No, but I thought it was. Like people would say, yo, aren't you excited to go lay on the beach? I'm like, lay on the beach for what?
I'm working.
And I think that like taking that time, it's just hard because you're like, when you climb the ladder, you're spoiled in the business. You're like, well, if I got a DJ in Jamaica or the Cayman Islands, I'll just go 5 days before, chill out for 3 days, work and go home.
Yeah.
Like I literally DJ'd in Phoenix on Friday, and then I DJ'd in Vegas on Saturday for fight night. And I took the 6 a.m. flight home because I just wanted to go home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like none of those hotel beds ever get touched. You know, I walk in there, I sit on the couch, I do whatever work I got to do, and it's straight to the club.
Yeah.
I take the latest flight out, earliest flight home, because I'm there to do business. So now I'm learning how to differentiate. Okay, this is your me time. You're going to take a vacation, and now this is your work time. So it's like, yeah, it's.
When's your next vacation?
That's a good question. I think after my birthday in July, I'm going to take some time. I don't know where yet, but I think, I definitely want to do that. And also, I've been taking the time to celebrate other people more. You know, like one of these girls that's on my team, she just got her degree. Nice. And I'm so proud of her because her friend circle is not into doing school and stuff. And
which makes it all the harder.
Right.
Yeah.
And I told my partner, I'm like, yo, Philly, like we gotta throw a dinner for her. We have to. We got to get her balloons. We got to do it at her favorite place because we want to celebrate her accomplishments. It's so important. I never celebrated my own accomplishments because I always thought that they weren't big enough.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, okay, well, I just did something here, whatever. Like I want more.
Yeah.
So don't worry about this. Going through this mental health phase of my life, which I'm taking with me forever, I'm realizing that you need to celebrate every win, big or small. And it doesn't have to be something like gigantic. You don't got to like throw a huge celebration. But having a dinner with your friends is cool. Like, why is that not?
And not feeling like celebrating yourself is showing off.
Oh my God! I mean,
that's a hard one.
You just said it. That's what it is. Because I felt like if I'm celebrating myself, I don't want people to look at me like, yo, like who does this guy think he is?
Yeah.
Or because they might not be as accomplished, for example, or they just don't. Some people, they want the energy to revolve around them.
Sure. Yeah.
I was always the person that wanted to celebrate other people.
Yes.
For me, whatever my accomplishments are, I just downplay my accomplishments because some people might have, thought it wasn't a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
And it's like, then you realize you're never going to be satisfied if you act like this.
Yeah.
Like I put out some records. One of the records went gold. I didn't celebrate that. I just figured like,
all right, cool. On to the next.
You're like, oh, it wasn't platinum kind of thing.
There you go.
Like, the next one will be platinum. So it's just like,
So it's like, how do you when are you ever going to be happy? Like, and that's what my brother asked me. He goes, I think, he's like, honestly, he told me a few years ago, he's like, you're at a certain point in your life where you're always going to want more and it's not going to be enough for you. And I always was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'll be all right. Thinking back to who I was then, I'm like, oh my God, like, what were you talking about?
Well, part of you also probably thinks to yourself, because I know I do this, it's just like, yeah, what's wrong with wanting more?
Yeah.
I want the world. I want it all.
Right.
But then you lose sight of the things, the wins, and then you get to that place. You look back and you're like, what did I actually feel throughout all of this?
Yeah.
Here's the list of accomplishments.
Totally.
I'm just talking to myself here, but what did I actually enjoy?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I spent so much hours. I missed out on this and that, and I didn't do this. I didn't give myself that. And now I could say I have these things, and I'm like, so what?
Yeah. It's crazy you say that because I even watched Russell Peters on this podcast, and I never saw that side of him before. And to see one of the, you posted one of the posts on your Instagram page, and he was talking about what doesn't matter to him anymore. Like, you're buying these cars, you're wearing all this, designer and all this
Big
stuff,
house, all
these things to get women.
Yeah.
Right. And none of that matters. Honestly, for me, I'm like, I was one of those people that just wanted to buy designer all the time. There's nothing wrong with it. Everyone has their interest in things that they like. I'm not really interested in doing that anymore because that's not going to help me be happier. You're going to have, a couple of people say, hey, that's a nice shirt or that's whatever. And that's great. But that's, again, seeking validation from wanting someone to look at you and be like, yo, that's a nice shirt.
Yeah.
When really it's like, it's
external.
Like,
it all ends up being external.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Like money don't make the man at the end of the day.
It doesn't.
100%.
It doesn't.
And
as much as people want to make it seem like it does, it doesn't.
Yeah. Like it's okay to be who you are.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times, especially in this industry, it's so easy to get lost.
Yeah.
There's like I said, like earlier, there's access to everything. And fortunately, like I don't drink or smoke. Like I said, I learned from mistakes of like my dad and, not to say what he did was wrong. I just think that he could have obviously handled the situation better.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
And if you're not comfortable answering that, it's okay.
Yeah.
Have you reconciled the relationship with your dad?
Mm-hmm. And it happened like right before he passed.
That's how it works.
Because I felt like we never, like imagine being younger and like, okay, for example, I DJ a party when I'm 17. I come home, 3 o'clock in the morning, turn on the light, and my dad's passed out. I think he's dead on the floor. You got to lift him up. You got to bring him to, because he'd always sleep on the couch because he would hide the alcohol underneath the couch. So you could never get it to go pour it out. And then I have to hide his car keys. And there was several times I had to call the ambulance to come get him, bring him to the hospital because I didn't know what was going on. Right. And my dad didn't drink to enjoy himself. He was drinking to escape his problems. And him and my mother didn't really get along. And they should have done something about it. I remember one time, and this is like no one obviously knows this except my internal circle, but I came home one day from DJing. All the lights were on in my house. and my parents weren't there. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what happened? Like, I don't even know what to think. So imagine, like, we had tenants living downstairs at the time, and I knocked on the door and I said, do you know where my parents are? You know what they told me? They said they both got arrested. My mother used to think that calling the cops was like calling a counselor. You know? She didn't really understand how that worked.
Yeah.
So she called the cops. They came to the house. She said my dad must have hit her on her wrist or something, and she must have hit. I don't know what exactly happened, but that was kind of the story. They must have been shoving each other. I don't know. And the cops made an example to let them know, don't call the cops for like stupid stuff, because it was nothing that serious. Like, they weren't really like physically fighting.
They were fighting. Yeah.
So they went to jail, and then the next morning I had to go to court, and I could only bail out one of them. So imagine that.
Oof.
I'm sitting in the courthouse like,
how do you make that call?
Who's stronger? And crazy enough, my mom's actually stronger than my dad. And I say it's crazy enough because generally, like,
you think the man would be,
right?
Yeah.
And that's no shot at females at all.
No, not at all. It's just it's a cultural thing,
right?
Yeah.
And like, I was calling my mom's brother, which is my uncle, off the hook to be like, look, you got to come bail out my mother, so I could bail out my father. And he finally answered, came. They both got bailed out, and that's another time for me that I should have saw a therapist or talked to somebody, but because I'm always a strong person, whatever, I'll figure it out, I'll be all right. And then after that, my mom lost her job, and then when she lost her job, she went into depression. And then my dad was still drinking. And then the doctor was telling my dad, listen, if you have one more drink, you're gonna die. So imagine dealing with like two like sick people.
And you're trying to build yourself, and you're trying to focus on a career and all these things.
I went through all of that. Like, how do you start your life when your parents aren't right?
Yeah.
So you put so much of your life on hold to be like, okay, you know what? I'll be all right. Let me take care of them. And then let me take care of me. But that taking care of me was just seeing the next day.
Yeah.
And
you're at the bottom of that list.
Right. So it's like, how do you overcome this? Or how do you, like, I had no idea what to do. And and then literally I remember I had to, I had an opportunity. I had the best weekend in New York. So right before I left, I went to go see my dad and my mom. And I said, look, I have this opportunity to go to New York. I'm going to DJ on 106 in Park.
Nice.
And, and then I'm going to DJ on satellite radio on Sirius XM for, I think it was Hip Hop Nation or one of those stations. And they're going to interview me. And I figured, like, I'm lit now, like, they're interviewing this DJ from Toronto, like, whatever. So I remember giving him $50, I think it was. I gave him $50 and I go, look, just buy whatever you want for today and tomorrow to eat. And he gave me a hug, but that hug felt like it was the last one. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how it felt to me. And then I went to New York. I DJ'd on 106 in Park. I did Sirius XM. Great weekend. Like, I went to Power 105. Sus One, who was a DJ on Power 105, showed me the studio. It was just like a great experience for me, and it gave me a lot of motivation. And then there was a snowstorm in New York, so me and my friend took a taxi to JFK because that's where we flew out of, and we missed our flight. So I was like, okay, well, we missed our flight. It's snowing out here. The next flight was supposed to come, and they canceled the flight. So we're already at the airport, and they said, well, there's a red eye at night. You can just stay here. We already checked out of our hotel, so we're just sleeping at the airport. I get this call. My brother called me like 6 times. I was knocked on one of the airport chairs.
Yeah.
I pick up the phone. I'm like, yo. He's like, yo, where you at? I said, I'm still in New York. I'm just waiting on this flight because I missed the other one. The other one got canceled. He's like, bro. He's like, are you around anybody right now? I'm like, yeah, my boy, but he's knocked. He goes, yo, dad passed in his sleep. And I was like, oh. It was crazy because in our culture, you have to go to So I had to go to their house, right? When someone passes, you have to help the coroner take the body out of the house. So, and I never knew that.
Yeah, they leave it there.
Right. So I had to literally, like, I called my mom, and at this time my mom's already in depression already. So they just made it worse, obviously. So I got back, went to the crib, and I had to take, so I walked in with the coroner. He was already there. Went upstairs to their room. He's like, do you want to see him? I'm like, what do I say to this, you know?
Yeah.
So he turned him over, and I looked at him. I'm like, at that moment, I was like, you know what? Life is so short, because we already knew that, but you look at your parents like superheroes. Like, I don't think they're ever going to die. My dad went from looking, 50 one day to looking 60 in like 2 months. I just didn't even know what happened to him. But yeah, like, we took the body out, and then, in our culture, like, we cremate bodies, and it was a 3-day span. They don't do longer than 3 days.
Right.
So imagine calling all this family to come to this funeral and do all. So I'm busy, wrapped up in inviting everybody and making sure everything's cool. My mom is trying to tell me that she has no money, but she's so caught up in depression that she doesn't know what she's talking about. So I had to literally tell her, Mom, don't worry, I paid for the funeral. And yeah, like, it was such an experience that I went through, where it's like, nothing in this world could ever jade me from, like, pushing my dad's coffin into an oven.
Yeah.
No one could ever, like,
can do anything bad to you that can compare to that.
You could do anything you want to me, but it's never going to affect me like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to get me to a point where, yeah, I'll have my down days, but that, and that's what my brother told me. I didn't even realize, because he's like, how are you so strong, like, dealing with all the things you deal with? I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, bro, you opened the casket, looked at him, kissed him, closed it, and pushed in the oven. He's like, bro, like, do you know how much strength you need for that? But I was so into, like, I just want to, like, let everything go. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm so immersed in all this work, setting up the funeral, making sure my mom's good, making sure the people are okay that are there. Like, I'm not even thinking about anything. And mind you, at this time, I'm teaching kindergarten too. So, like, I'm literally, coming back from New York, ready to go to work on Monday. And my dad just passed. So, like, the school showed me love. Like, the principal was there. Like, my teaching partner came. Like, it was a lot of love. So that helped me get through. But I didn't do that work on myself. I just said, I didn't take time to grieve or mourn. So it is what it is. I'll get there. And I just replaced it with being busy. This is what I told my friend the other day. He was going through some stuff, and I'm like, so what are you doing to get over this? He goes, I just need work. I'm just busy. I'm like, take the time, bro.
Yes.
A lot of the times people, they think, like,
they try to distract themselves with something else.
Right.
It's gonna come back. Like, it'll come back. So
It
you
will.
have to take the time.
Inevitably will.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that I didn't do, that I learned from, where I was like, okay, look, you didn't take time to grieve. But I'm just happy that we were at peace, and we had like real conversations before before it was this time. But
I'm glad you got that chance.
Yeah, me too. Because honestly, my
Not a lot
brother,
of people do.
my brother didn't have that chance.
Yeah.
He moved when he was younger, lived in Windsor, and then he got a radio gig in Cayman Islands. He was gone for 8 years. He got married. I think for him, yeah, like, he even tells me to this day that he regrets not being around a lot.
Yeah.
But everyone's path is different. I think a lot of the times, like, I'd resent him too and be like, yo, why'd you leave me to deal with this on my own? Like,
But that's not who you are.
so I'm not going to say that, but it's like, you're 18, 17, 16, and I'm 14. So I'm at an age where I don't even know what's going on. I just think this is real life. Seeing my parents fight physically seems real to me.
That's all you know.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, oh, this is real. This shit happens all the time. But not knowing that it doesn't. And yeah, it was just like a crazy eye-opener for me to not have resentment, because listen, like, if my brother didn't, move away, he probably would have ended up a different way, because he took what my parents were going through negatively, where he'd start drinking.
It affected him differently.
Right.
Yeah.
He started
so it's
drinking.
almost as if he needed to leave.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, for me, I guess I was a bit stronger to withstand that. But yeah, I think life is truly precious, and you got to do your best to like be there for people that are there for you, and just always put your best foot forward. You know.
Well, you do a lot of being there for others seems to be a central core of your personality. One of the things that you talked about earlier was Tasty Mix.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another DJ inspired, like you're working to help other DJs
Right.
as well. Is that something that's ongoing? Is that something you're still working on?
So, you know, with the Tasty Mix, I felt like the stars aligned at the right time. Mary Brown's has always had a commitment to the community, and so have I. And I felt like I'm so happy that the stars aligned when they did, because they've done several, you know, efforts, you know, fundraising. They've done a lot of stuff with the Boys and Girls Club, and I loved their whole like direction of things they were doing for the community as well. They're obviously a Canadian company, been around since like 1969. Like,
yeah,
Didn't realize that.
yeah, like
I
over
didn't know they
20.
were Canadian.
Yeah, they're Canadian.
Yeah, because I've only heard about them maybe, well, now it's been about 15, 20 years, but like obviously been around for a lot longer.
Yeah.
Because like growing up was just KFC.
It was
right?
always, yeah.
And then it was
they weren't in the
Popeyes, and then it was
malls.
Popeyes,
Yeah.
right? So then Mary Brown's came, but Mary Brown's been around longer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is an initiative that basically supports other DJs.
Yeah,
as
so I was talking to Dakota. So she has a company called EQ, and they handle all my endorsement deals.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we had a conversation, and I was telling her, I'm like, I want to do something again for the DJs, but I want to do something for the new DJs, like the up and coming ones,
Yeah.
because I don't think they have direction. You know, you can literally like download 3,000 songs and organize your stuff, and you're a DJ. It's how it is now. Now it's always been based off of obviously relationships and so forth, but the skill isn't really a thing like that anymore to me. Club owners will look at it like, you know, can you book 2 tables tonight? Cool, I'll hire you.
Yeah. Like who can you bring in? yeah.
It's not about your talent anymore. Like you could be decent, but what's your relationship like with the owner? And
How many people can you bring through the door?
Yeah.
Right.
Guess list, how many people can get on your guest list? If you can get 15, 20 people, all right, cool, we got you.
right.
Yeah.
So it's like, how does the DJ that is an introvert like me, that was forced to be an extrovert, get a gig?
Yeah.
Because like what I would do, I'd go to the clubs and talk to the promoters.
So how does the partnership with Mary Brown's work into this?
Well, basically, since like I said, we're aligned together in terms of community, I said, let's do something where we can really showcase these DJs that are coming up.
Yeah.
Let's put something out there. Let DJs submit a mix. Let's do it, you know, Canada wide, and select, you know, 10 DJs to see what they can do. And I was very adamant on female DJs being involved. I'm like, this is a very male dominated industry, and it's been like that. But now I have some power to say, no, I don't want it to be like that right now. I want it to be, or I don't want it to be like that at all. I need females involved as well. So we put it out there, and it's a 10-part YouTube series. We selected 10 really incredible DJs from different parts. I think we have someone from Edmonton, someone from Calgary, not just Toronto, which is great. And we have 4 of the mixes live now. The good part about it is, you know, it's promoted digitally, like nationwide, which is great.
Yeah.
They put a heavy ad spend behind all the mixes, which is great. I never had anything like that.
Yeah, like to have that kind
You
of
think anyone's going to come up to me and be like, yo, Charlie, about your 50 records? That is not happening, bro. You know?
Yeah.
It's good to help them out too.
Yeah. And obviously it's just good energy, right? Like being in that space, you know, and I remember when Dakota, she was telling me, she's like, yeah, they get to meet you and whatever. I'm like, meet me? Like, let's not talk about me, bro. We're trying to push
about them. Yeah.
But then it's just like, I'm now not agreeing that I put in work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, okay, cool, I guess. You know, I'm so not good with like people giving me praise. I can't take it for some reason. But now I'm learning to be like, okay, yeah, I did put in work. Like I do deserve this.
Well, I'm gonna give you praise because you deserve it. All the work that you do to support others.
Yeah.
When you have an incredible story.
Yeah.
A lot of challenges along the way. A lot of reasons to pack up and say I'm done.
Yeah.
And you continue to push through that, and not just in survival mode, but in growth mode. How do we help others?
Right.
And I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think you do incredible work.
No,
and
man,
I just
thank
want to
you.
express that to you because I'm grateful that you've come through and you've shared this story with us.
Yeah,
really.
it was.
Like, thank you so much.
No.
It's been a pleasure. Like,
I feel like it's with certain things when you have, say, anxiety. I'm sure all of us have it, but some have it more than others.
Yeah.
When you face your anxiety, you've kind of conquered that part, right? Where it's like, okay, like, I'm coming here to talk to you guys about some real shit. It's not really like, I'm not here to talk about just like, oh, I'm promoting this or I got this coming out. It's like, this is something that's held close to me that I'm going to share.
Something real, yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Something real. So I think that, like, what you're saying is obviously a lack of a better term. Like, I'm coming here to tell you some real shit about me. And I think that, like, I feel stronger now having done that. So that's not going to be an angst for me in the future.
Yeah.
Right? Because I just feel like certain things don't need to be shared.
Yeah.
But then when I look at what's happening in the world, you got to share it.
You have to.
You got to share how you get through these bad times. Because one, reminds you that you got through it. But everyone's going to go through some bad times, right? Yeah. It's like, and they're going to keep coming. So it's like, I got through it doing this way. This might not work for you in this situation, but don't forget about this, because maybe the next situation, you might be able to, what I said might be able to help you, might be able to resonate with you in that sense.
Yeah. Right. And I think that that's so important, because I never had anything to look at to show me why I was going through what I was going through. And then, obviously, like, not to go off topic, but you mentioned this, Jay Shetty, and he's helped me so much. I never knew how powerful someone could be until I started watching his podcast and listening to them at the gym, or just like listening to them while I'm driving, because he just really hit the nail on everything that I've been going through. And I'm like, I know people go through things, but it's all about how they kind of deliver their message.
How they deliver it, yeah.
And he's been able to, like, deliver the messages properly to me, because I felt like he was talking to me. So I saw he was coming to Toronto. I'm like, I need to go to the show.
You gotta go, yeah. I regret not being able to go.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like, one of my good friends is Humble the Poet. He's got a lot of books out. He's from here.
Yeah. We were actually trying to get him on.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'll definitely do that for you guys. He'd love to do that.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Humble, and I was telling him, I go, I know you've been on Jay's podcast. Like, I really want to go to his show, and obviously I'd pay for a ticket. Like, I'm not really tripping over that. But he's like, nah, I got you. So he connected me with Jay and his team, and I did the meditation with him prior to the show. There was like maybe like 10 of us, which was great. And then after the show, I met him, and it was like, I couldn't even talk, bro. Like, I met him, and I'm like, this was AJ, not Charlie.
Yeah.
But I felt like I met Bret Hart when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It just felt, I didn't even know what to say. I literally just said, thank you. That's it. But that was like a big stepping stone for me to actually tell somebody that I don't even know how much they've helped me grow.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with your guys, with your podcast. Like, I watched Russell Peters' interview, and I'm like, wow. Like, I never would have known anything about his story like that unless, and I've met him multiple times. We've got a lot of mutual friends, but I'd never know he was thinking like that until he came on the show. So not only is he helping get the message across, so are both of you.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Which is giving you guys your praise and your flowers, because you deserve it. Because I never would have known that someone else was going through what I was going through until I seen that.
Yeah.
Because I would say to myself, why do I not care about buying designer this week? I cared about it last week. And then I watched this podcast, and I'm like, wow, I totally understand why. Yeah. But yeah, going back to this initiative that we're talking about, it's all about promoting the future. I want to see these upcoming DJs do well. And it'll make me feel even a little happy knowing that I played a small part in helping them.
Well, listen, man, you've played a huge part in so many people's lives already.
No, I appreciate it.
And you're going to do so much more.
Yeah.
And you've got 2 fans here, 3 counting Poncho.
Yeah.
But honestly, thank you for coming through. This is an eye-opening conversation. It really reminds me that I need to take stock of the things that go well and celebrate my own little wins.
Yeah.
And I hope you continue to do the same, because you deserve your flowers.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, look, in life, we all, we're not, we don't always do everything the right way.
Yeah.
I think we all make mistakes, and the most important thing is to learn from them and move forward, take the lessons with you, and, try to guide the right people that are around you so they don't make the mistakes you made.
Yeah.
And we're all a work in progress. And I'm always going to be a student of the game.
Amazing.
So,
we're all a work in progress.
Sorry, I have one. I know time is ticking. I did one question.
Yeah, that was a long time.
What is Charlie's favorite thing about AJ?
Wow, that's a good one. I think Charlie's favorite thing about AJ is there's one thing that they both have in common, and that's paying it forward and always helping other people. That's one thing I could say that really kind of has them meet in the middle, where it's like Charlie helps people and so does AJ, right? Being able to differentiate like my circle of friends and knowing like, okay, you don't rely on someone that you go to parties with to, go somewhere else with in terms of your personal part of your life, and just, I think it's important to, it's such a tough thing, that question's very like, it's hard because it's like, Charlie loves a lot of things about AJ, but it definitely has to be my trait, my character trait, and like something I've always done is help other people, whether it's Charlie or AJ. So I think Charlie's
paying
best.
it forward.
Paying
it forward.
It's so important, bro. You gotta do that.
Always gotta pay it forward.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And sorry, one more thing. Yeah. You gotta do it for you.
Yes.
100%.
Not do it for what people are gonna say.
Yeah.
Everything that I do it for me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, look, I'm gonna help this person because I want to do it.
Yeah.
Not because they're gonna do something for me.
Yeah.
And I think people get it twisted sometimes. But no, I appreciate your time. This has been
thank you, brother.
This has been great.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming.
Obviously wanted to come here, so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
too.
of course. I was pushing for it. I was like, man, honestly, you guys run your ship the right way.
Thank you.
It's everything across the board is incredible. I love what you guys are doing, and that motivates me to do more with the stuff I have going on. So
beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Poncho, appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you,
everybody.
Sir.
Thank you for listening. We really appreciate your time.
All right.
Thank you.